Good morning, my gelflings. It's Lore. It's been a while since I've made a video, and the reason for that is because I have been traveling. And so I want to do a video about spiritual traveling. And I'm not talking about astral projection or lucid dreaming. I'm talking about physically traveling with the intention of following your heart. So originally, when I started making the spiritual recovery talks, I was in Florida, but now I am in Pacific Beach in California. And I stopped off in Sedona. And I had no intention of actually going to Sedona initially, but in my meditation, I got the message that this was a place that I needed to go. And if you want to know more about how I came to that conclusion or my process in Sedona or just my experience in general, I'd recommend you check out my blog. But right now, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you and give you some tips on how you can begin a spiritual journey with traveling. So back in like ancient Egypt and like ancient Greece, when they had lots of gods, very often the god of education was also the god of traveling. So when we travel and when we are exposed to new things, we're not just opening our heart and opening our spirit up to new experiences through new places, but we're actually growing and learning in completely different ways. When you experience a new place, when you experience a culture that's different from yours and you get out of like the regular mundane routine, you'll often find that your heart is just singing with joy. You're excited more, you're in a better mood. And some people might attribute that to, oh, well, I'm on a vacation. But really, I think what it actually is that the exposure is forcing you to grow. You're gaining like all this neuroplasticity in your brain because you're doing all of these new things and you're exposed to all of this new stuff. And what it's actually doing is it's maturing you beyond what a regular classroom can do. And I heard this really powerful bit of advice, which was knowledge is something you get from books. Wisdom is something you get from experience. So in my opinion, in order to gain wisdom, we need to expose ourselves to as many experiences as possible. And what better way to do that than through traveling? Now, I think a lot of people are immediately intimidated and they shut down the idea of traveling because they will often fall back on the whole money thing. People will often think that traveling is expensive before they actually do any research and looking into how much things actually cost because they already default to this idea, well, I can't afford it, so I'm not gonna go. When you have a place in your heart or when your spirit is screaming at you to go somewhere, you gotta go, bro. And it's not about saying, well, I'm planning on going or I'm going to go someday. I'm going to go someday. Shut the fuck up. You're not going to go someday if you just keep saying that. Now, I'm not recommending someone do something really irresponsible or really impulsive or burn any bridges or run away from something. People fall back on the idea that, oh, well, this is too expensive. And it's not because it's too expensive. It's because they're afraid. They're afraid of the unknown. They're afraid to break their routine. They're afraid of what they're going to find or what they're going to look at, or they're afraid of being alone. And confronting all these fears by actually traveling is the same thing that is helping your spirit, your heart, and your mind all progress. If you consciously make the decision to go somewhere and say, I'm doing it, I'm gonna go, there's nothing that's really gonna stop you. It's honestly remarkable the things that people can accomplish when they're just determined to do something. But you have to actually choose to do it and not roll your eyes and feel this yearning in your heart like, yes, I'll go one day. Like fucking Rapunzel in her tower or some shit. You are not a fairy tale princess. There is no prince that's going to come and rescue you and take you to the place you want to go. You have to make the decision to go on your own. And that's fucking scary. Honest to God, like totally, like I didn't want to go to Sedona. The entire way there, I was fucking terrified. I had to drive through a snowstorm. I tried to book an Airbnb outside of the town. And guess what? The Airbnb lady called me back and was like, oh, we can't book you. I was fucking terrified. I don't know anybody here. I've never been here before. I'm like up in the mountains. I drive this tiny car. It is fucking scary. But when you finally go, you realize that, oh shit, I'm actually totally supposed to be here. And the doorways and the lessons that will open up to you when you make the decision will all like fall into place and everything will make sense. And then more doors will open and more doors will open. But they are not just going to magically plop in front of your face. You have to actually go. And honestly, the excuse of not having enough money is really pathetic because bitch, you know, if your mom needed a really expensive surgery that you couldn't afford, you'd find the money to get it. You'd find the money. Bitch, don't even lie to me. You would. I'm not saying that you have to scramble in desperation for the funds, because if you are meant to go, the funds will find you. And again, I'm not saying that, $300 is going to plop out of the ground. But for one thing, most of us in the United States have received a stimulus check. And so maybe instead of spending it on like a new Xbox or a subwoofer, you can spend it on a trip if you still have it. But even if you don't have it, you're going to find a way to make it work, because if spirit tells you to do something, if your heart tells you to do something, and you decide that this is what you are going to do, regardless of how afraid you are, because you are aligning with the will of spirit, spirit will the things to happen in your life to make those things possible. In one of my previous videos, I talked about aligning yourself and aligning your intentions with the all and with the great spirit. And it's not just for the benefit of yourself and not just for the benefit of your growth in your life, but it's for the benefit of everyone on earth, everyone in the universe. We are all connected. So when you decide, when you make the decision, all the universe conspires in your favor. And when you do decide to go, here's some other recommendations I have for you. Number 1, avoid an itinerary. You're not a fucking tourist. You're a spiritual student. And as a spiritual student, you need to understand that the heart is going to lead you. And the heart doesn't like itineraries. Now, if you are highly uncomfortable with the idea of going in with no plan, go ahead and make one. But keep in mind that this plan might change. The second recommendation I have is fucking talk to people. I think one of the number one ways spirit talks to us is through other people. I have wound up staying on couches, going to parties, going to drum circles, all because I just talk to people. Number 3 is to make sure you're continuing to take care of yourself, especially if you're road tripping or you're traveling in a car or you're traveling alone. It's really important to make sure that you're getting enough rest, that you're getting enough water. Try to continue your routines that take care of yourself and ground you, because when you're traveling, it's really easy to kind of get swept up. And especially when you're trying to align with spirit and you're trying to align with the intention of all, we can often get so swept up and really overly empathetic of the energy that we're absorbing in these new places. So it's really important that you maintain taking care of yourself and getting enough rest. Now, I'm not saying, avoid a party if like you want to go party, we're humans and you should enjoy being a human, but just make sure that you're balancing that with enough rest, because as a spiritual student, you're not there to party. You're not there to do the tourist thing. You're there to absorb the experiences that that source is giving you. And it's really difficult to do that if you end up just doing a bunch of drugs or just like partying too much and not taking care of yourself. You'll end up getting swept up in the physical experiences and not really focusing on the spiritual ones. And the fourth and final recommendation I have is to journal. If you watch my journaling video, you'll know that I'm like a total nut about journaling. Say you get like a new composition book and you fill that book with the intention of traveling. You only use it for your plans and your progression through your journey. Not only are you going to help manifest that journey more efficiently, but then you'll have this beautiful documentation of your travels and of your lessons that you can reference and look back on and remember. One more bit of advice that I think is really important is that a lot of times people will get really on fire about something and they'll pour a lot of energy, just pushing all their energy out into this intention. And when we are overexcited, you're actually closing a couple of doors. So make sure that you are balancing your intentions well. Make sure you're continuing to take care of yourself. You're continuing to ground yourself with your friends and family, and you're doing things that will take care of you and will take care of your experience. Because say, for example, You think that, oh, I want to go to California. Well, California is kind of a big place. And so if you randomly say, well, I'm going to go to LA, and you are so on fire about your idea to go to LA, and you are so determined to go, and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, that you might not actually realize that you're not supposed to go to LA at all. You're actually supposed to go to fucking, I don't know, Willits. And you might get sign after sign after sign waving in front of your face like, no, don't go to LA, it's a terrible place. But you won't recognize that. So make sure that you are staying focused and that you're staying balanced. You might also just say, well, I don't really know where I'm supposed to go, so I guess I'll just go here. Because maybe there's a place that you don't know that you're supposed to go to, but in order for you to get to the spot that you're meant to be, you just need to travel on the trajectory of this other destination. So just making sure that you keep things open-ended and that you're not pushing yourself too hard. The idea is that you're opening your heart to these experiences and that you are determined to make those things happen. But if the journey takes you somewhere else, just roll with it. So that's all I really have for spiritually driven travel. If you're curious about my spiritually guided traveling, I'm going to be making a blog. I know I've been talking about it for a while, but I'm really going to do it this time. I don't do a lot of self-promotion in these videos, but I will say that me and some friends are starting a really, really cool site that's all about connecting with the divine feminine and living a spiritually guided life. And so it would be really rad if you check that out. So that's all I have to say. I hope you keep being amazing, and I hope this video inspired you. You are awesome, and I love you.